Hi, this is John Pettigrew, and you're listening to Talking Through My Hat, a podcast that explores bookish businesses, the fantastic people who create them, and what those people have learned. I'm a hat wearer, a recovering editor, and the creator of Future Proofs, enabling editors and authors to work better online. To find out more, visit wearefutureproofs.com or follow me on Twitter at John_Pettigrew. Welcome to this week's Talking Through My Hat. Today I'm talking with Georgina Atwell, founder of Toppsta, a community for reading, reviewing and discovering great children's books. Before that, she worked at Penguin UK and also for Apple's iBooks team. I'm sure that variety of experience gives her a unique perspective in the industry. So welcome to the podcast, George.
Hi, John. Thank you for having me.
Toppsta's been going for a while now, but how do you describe it to people who don't know what you do yet?
Well, we launched about 4 years ago, and I guess I describe it as an online community where you can read, review, and recommend children's books. And I'm probably not any more specific than that, mainly because if I start saying things like it's where kids can read more, people stand up and say, well, what if I want to read to the children? Or people say, oh, it's where children can review books. I was like, well, we do have teachers and librarians as well. So I think reading, reviewing and recommending children's books is probably as specific as I can be.
Okay, sounds good. So why did you first set it up?
I guess 3 main reasons. I'd always wanted to run my own business. In fact, I started what is now known as Toppsta back in 2009 and then got a call from Apple about running their ebook business. And it was a really difficult decision to make, but it was absolutely the dream job with a huge focus on editorial recommendations. And of course, Apple's an incredibly exciting company. So certainly in the early days, it was a bit like running my own business, but with the support of a big company behind you. But secondly, I'd reached a stage in my life where, despite being a complete workaholic, I wanted a bit of flexibility. I would describe myself as pretty ambitious, but I didn't seem to be able to find a job which provided the flexibility I wanted without sacrificing the seniority that I also wanted. And I think it's tragic how many working parents do fall off the career ladder just because they need some flexibility for their families. Toppsta is now a team of freelancers who work remotely and work pretty much whenever and wherever it suits them. And I think if you've got a strong team and people you trust, asking them to work in a specific location or specific hours doesn't seem to make much sense. So I knew that flexibility was going to be important for me as well. And then I guess I'd witnessed firsthand at Apple just how effective some publishers and some self-published authors were using social media for marketing. And I wanted to harness that to create a community where children could share their recommendations with each other. There didn't seem to be anything else out there that did that, particularly which stretched across the UK and brought together children from a variety of different backgrounds. I would still say that about 90% of our community are based out of London, and we're sometimes the first book that they have ever had at home. And it's really important to me that we reach those families in a fun and kind of engaging ways.
Great. So that focus on children's books, is that something that was very important to you? Had that always been a thing for you, or?
In the first iteration, so back in 2009 when it was first set up, it was actually toys and books. And I was taking a full feed from Amazon of children's books and toys. And then when I got the call from Apple, I went off for 4 years and had a great time. But I suddenly realized, and this probably sounds ridiculous, but it wasn't deliberate. I now had actually all the contact details of all the UK publishers. And I'd probably be better off just focusing on books. My children were gutted. They really thought that they might get lots of free toys sent to home. But I felt like I better understood the issues facing parents when it came to choosing books. There are apparently 10,000 new children's books every year just in the UK. And it's baffling for children. It's absolutely baffling for children. And when I'm meeting a new publisher, I usually say, we need to imagine we're walking into a supermarket and we're faced with 10,000 new choices of cereal. The reality is that most of us would run out again screaming. And this is what we're asking parents to do each year, and overwhelmed by the choice. So given that I felt I better understood what was working, what was not in sort of social media, and given that I now had all the contacts for pretty much every publisher in the UK, I made a pretty swift decision just to focus on books.
Okay. Now, am I right in thinking that originally Toppsta was on Facebook?
Yes.
So how did you make the change from? I mean, why did you do that? And then
Yeah.
how and why did you make the change to kind of your self-hosted, your own thing?
Yeah, no, good question. So I left Apple in April/May 2014. It took about 6 months. It's always far longer than anyone anticipates to set up, all the legal side, the infrastructure, the trademarks, and the social media presence, find a name, etc., etc. But I'd learnt through my time at Apple that Facebook was the place where authors and illustrators were really finding fantastic engagement for children's books, much more so than Twitter. And I don't know why. I didn't know back then why it was, but I've sort of learnt over time that's really where ordinary parents are hanging out. And that's clearly changing over time with the Facebook algorithm and Instagram, etc. But we still find that it drives much more of our traffic than Twitter. So Facebook was a very low cost way of building our community, reaching people, and also reaching people who weren't necessarily walking into a bookshop looking for books. The example I give is often we're trying to reach those mums in the playground who are out pushing a child on a swing, but are looking at their Facebook feed at the same time. So they're not perhaps looking for the latest children's book releases. They're not walking into Waterstones, but they probably know that reading is a good thing. They know that perhaps they enjoy books or their children enjoy being read to. We're sort of tapping into them. And I knew that giveaways were very successful as a sort of a hook. But the challenges with Facebook is you are completely held ransom to their algorithm. So every time that changes, you have to sort of readjust your strategy. And I wanted somewhere actually where I could host all the reviews. The point is not just handing out free books. That doesn't really benefit many people, I think, apart from compers on Twitter. The point is to get the right book into the right child's hand. And the only way I could do that was if I knew a little bit more about the children's family. So how old were the children? What other books have they read and enjoyed? Which books haven't they read and enjoyed? Could we persuade them to try something a bit different? Could we say to them, you like this series, but perhaps you might like that series? So the website enables me really to pick and choose the winners for each giveaway very carefully. And that is, in all seriousness, the most time-consuming job for me every week. We have 12 books, 12 copies of a book, and I need to find a broad balance of children to read and review this book for the publisher. And having my own website enables me to do that.
So it's that control side that you need that Facebook wasn't giving you.
Yeah, and I think that any social media doesn't give you. I mean, social media is fantastic for catching people's attention, but I often describe it as being like fireworks. There's a bang that goes off and everyone turns to look at the bang, and it's a competition or it's an announcement, whatever. And then there's another bang over to the other side and everyone turns to look at that. But within a website, it's a much deeper relationship. We know a little bit about them. We know their likes and their dislikes. We know the ages. We know how likely they are to review the book. If they've won a book previously, did they review it? Did they not review it? We can email them our newsletter. We can make suggestions based on their children's ages and likes. It's a much more personal one-to-one relationship than we ever got through social media. So social media is still very effective for us, but it's a way of hooking people into websites so that we can really make much more interesting recommendations to them.
So kind of your help from the sound of it, kind of like Toppsta is kind of helping books compete in that attention marketplace.
Absolutely.
Because we like to say these days that books are competing against apps and TV and all this kind of stuff, and you're engaged in that competition. Yeah,
and it's a relatively small website in that we have 20,000 people or so coming every month, but that's 20,000 people looking for children's books. I mean, that in itself is fantastic. We're all looking for ideas and recommendations or sharing their recommendations. Social media, you can have millions and gazillions of people, but what I found engaging with larger communities with gazillions is that actually only a small percentage are looking for books. This is still sadly a relatively niche interest, and that's what we're trying to change. But I would rather be focused than too broad.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing. My kids are a bit older now, but we had a nightmare trying to find books when they were younger. My son was relatively straightforward because he liked dinosaurs and he liked spaceships. So Astrosaur's books, which are dinosaurs
Yeah,
on spaceships, is fine.
perfect.
My daughter was much more difficult because she didn't particularly like dinosaurs and spaceships, but also, she didn't really like the Rainbow Unicorn Princess Fairy books either. And it was, it wasn't until we discovered Jacqueline Wilson for her, the particularly more historical side of stuff, that we found the stuff that really engaged her.
Writing a review forces a child and a parent to think about, well, what did they like and not like about this book? And therefore, well, what other things might you like or not like in the next book?
Uh-huh.
It's again more engaging than a yes/no quiz or multiple answers, etc. It's like, well, actually, I liked it because it was exciting, or it was an adventure, or there was romance, or there was history, or it was fun. Suddenly, the parent goes, "They like funny books, quick!" And it helps the parent. It helps steer through these 10,000 books each time. So I think the process of writing that review is as important as reading the book, really, in terms of thinking about what works and what doesn't, and therefore what that elusive next book might be.
Yeah. Are you using their reviews, the text of the reviews, to say, well, there's some keywords coming out here or something that we're going to use?
We do look at it from time to time. Everyone describes books in different terms, and certainly you can follow people on the website and you can see what they're reviewing, and you might find someone who's got similar tastes and therefore follow them. We're working on moving towards an algorithm, I guess, that would help to find appropriate books. But as you say, every child is different.
Yeah.
So, clearly with 20,000 users, I can't be making 20,000 different children's book recommendations.
Yeah,
you get a lot
that doesn't
of
scale.
queries. I know. I would like to sleep occasionally. I get a lot of emails and messages through Facebook and Twitter, etc., asking for recommendations, and I always reply to those. But I also say, that this is one person's opinion. If you really want to ask for many people's opinions, and that's the purpose of the website, really, I would go onto Facebook or Twitter and I will share your question, and let's get other people contributing too, because I may recommend these 5 books and another child might recommend these 5 books and a librarian another 5 books, and all valid suggestions. The point of having this community is that you get multiple recommendations, whereas if I was just a blogger, and I love reading blogs about children's books, but there is a big pile and there are only so many hours in the day, and it's difficult to get through all those books, whereas we have 50 new reviews coming in every day now, and that's which is fantastic.
So using it as it's a kind of a human powered recommendation system. Yeah, because I'm all into the tech, but algorithms are blind, whereas human beings actually know what they're recommending. And there's so much that's actually, it's about taste, it's about humour, it's about all sorts of things. So it'd be interesting to see if algorithms can get there. But human recommendation is still one of the most powerful things.
I think so. And which is why 4 years on, we haven't got an algorithm yet.
So Toppsta is giving away books, it's reviewing books, helping people to find books, which is all very wonderful. But you're a business. How do you actually make money doing this stuff?
Well, aside from the giveaways, the publishers can pay for other ways of sort of featuring their books on the website. So there is a small payment there. But we are a literacy business, so there's not a lot of cash flowing around. I'm not.
That's kind of what I was wondering, because you said you have this team of freelancers and they're presumably expecting to be paid at some point.
They are, and we've got enough to cover our costs. And I made a concerted decision early on. I didn't want to be a charity, only for the reason I just didn't want to spend the endless hours applying for grants and have the uncertainty each year.
Yeah.
So as long as we are covering our costs, and I have a bit of money left over at the end of the month to pay the bills, then that's fine. And I've been approached for VC and to be bought, actually, but at the moment, I enjoy this so much. I don't really want to have to do things for the sake of shareholders, and I decided to grow organically. So we're growing probably more slowly than we would be if we were getting investment, but I think possibly making better decisions for the benefit of the community and the children than if I was, a public liability company or had shareholders. Or
I mean, it's the kind of the the precipice you always have to walk along is that if you've got a vision-driven business, as long as you can stay afloat, you can keep control of that and do what you think you should be doing. Whereas if you take lots of cash, then you have a competing priority then.
Exactly. And I think
back.
One of the books I read early on was The Lean Startup, and it really had a considerable influence for many different reasons. But one of them was really keeping an eye on costs. So, I started on Facebook. I didn't have high costs then. Yes, we launched the website, but, there was no income at all for the first year or so. As I worked with publishers working out what the best model was. It takes a while to build all of this up.
Yeah.
And as soon as I felt the costs were getting out of control, I'd have to rein them back in again.
Yeah.
And I've seen other publishing startups boom and bust, sadly, because there's massive investment that goes in.
Yeah.
And you don't see the returns.
And if you get addicted to spending all of that money, then
exactly,
sustainability becomes an issue.
And employees. And it's interesting because in the early days, I think publishers were asking, are you going to get offices? Are you going to employ more people? And my response was always like, well, of course I can, but I would then need to double the costs and charge you for X, Y, and Z. And I don't currently do that. So recognizing that generally publishers' budgets are very small and often nil, that wasn't really an option. So as long as I can keep my costs down, I am appealing to publishers who enjoy engaging with our community and getting feedback on their books.
Yeah. So your revenue is largely driven by charging promotion fees to the publishers, and presumably your giveaways, you don't have to buy those, I'm guessing. The
publishers all send out the books to the winners directly, and that has complications too, because books go missing, or they don't turn up for whatever reason. So the winner gets in contact with me and says the book hasn't turned up, and then I have to contact the publisher. But essentially, most people are very understanding. They're receiving these books for free, and they're very patient. We ask that they allow sort of 2 weeks, etc. But in a way, there's meant to be no judgment by me about what is and what isn't a good book. So, publishers pitch, and I choose those books for the giveaways that I think our readership will enjoy the most. But I try and avoid saying this is, an incredible book, or this is an awful book, or whatever, because actually it's the children.
And you're trying to get the reviews back from them to tell you whether it's
We do now have books of the month, and those are really special. Those are the books that just make my heart sing, and you read them and you think, I know the children are going to love this. And actually the challenge with that is that we get a lot of adults who want to read them too, and I have to sort of gently remind them, well, actually these really are for the benefit of the children. Would you mind sharing them with the kids at home? But those are really special books. It's a lovely way, particularly recently we've had a few debut authors. We've had Boy Underwater from Adam Barron and Train to Impossible Places. It's really exciting to be supporting a new author, and some of the publishers are just amazing about putting their support behind new authors too. So it's a pleasure to work on those campaigns.
Yeah. So when you were putting that stuff together, I say in the first year you hadn't really got a revenue stream yet at all. I mean, did you have an idea of what that was going to look like, your business model, or is that still kind of you trying to work out how it's going to work?
Yes and no. I mean, I've always had ideas, but I've never had a written down business plan. And the publishers are incredibly supportive. So I've said to them along the way, I'm going to try something. I'm not going to charge you in the early days. And when I've worked out what's working, what's not, then I'll come back, and then, these will be the sort of level of charges, etc. And that's pretty much how we've worked out all of our projects. So, we have the giveaways, but we also have other promotions, and we have summer reading guides and best books of the year. And recently we did a Toppsta reading record. And I really didn't have any idea how popular that would be with schools. I tried many times to work with schools, and I sort of went to publishers and said, I'm going to email our subscriber list, and we're going to see what the response is. And then I'll come back and tell you how many copies of this we're going to do. And thankfully, they've known me long enough that they're very trusting about that. And so I emailed out our subscriber list, and within 12 hours we had applications for 10,000 copies.
Ooh.
Like,
okay.
Oh, okay. I think we're onto something here.
Yeah.
And the genius about the Toppsta reading record is that it is something that schools use already. They know what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's that book that goes between school and home, when you're learning to read, or when you're, enjoying reading and taking books out of the library and you can write comments, etc. It was saving them money. So instead of paying to purchase the reading records, they were actually saving money. And inside the reading record were actually book recommendations. So we had lists of books that children on our website have really enjoyed. So it kind of all came together, but that was very much a work in progress that sort of bounced back and forth between me, the publishers, and the schools, and back again, trying to work out the sort of finances behind it.
Yeah.
But publishers are very keen, obviously, to reach as many readers as possible, and they are, I find, very supportive of initiatives within the industry.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for their support.
Yeah, well, it's one of the nice things with publishing is that at its best, it's very collegial and supportive because because we're working on a product that we care about.
Yeah,
it's not about fundamentally the money. It's about the books. It's about the readers. It's about that whether it's joy, whether it's education, whatever it is that you're bringing there. It's one of the lovely things about it.
It is, and the people who work in it as well, as you say, no one's in it for the money. So generally, you work there for the love of the books and the readers.
Yeah,
which makes for a very nice working environment.
Yeah. So you've been around for 4 years, are you kind of where you thought you'd be? Did you have, when you had a picture in your head of what you thought you were going to be doing, did it look a bit like where you are now, or have you kind of taken a bit of sideways veer at some point?
I certainly wanted to have a website. We've now got 35,000 views. If I'm honest, I didn't think we'd necessarily have that many. It's way more than I was originally anticipating. I guess I didn't know early on whether I wanted to have, an office and a space, or whether we would be all self-employed. And it's worked out that actually, I have a huge preference for working remotely, and secondly, to keep the cost down. That's just the way it's worked. I think, and then there were projects like the reading record that I certainly hadn't envisaged in the early days, but have been really exciting. And I'm always trying to work out, well, what can we do to help? So Toppsta originally is helping parents discover books, and then it was helping publishers reach readers, and now we're helping schools save money but encourage reading. So as long as I kind of stick to those principles, I don't really mind where the path takes me. It's going to, I know that some companies do plan for sort of 5 years ahead and more. I think things change so quickly. You could spend a lot of time predicting and then scratching your head as to why you didn't quite work out the way. Whereas I think the lean startup approach of sort of innovating, constantly changing, tweaking, getting feedback, I find much more effective in terms of providing effective products and services to readers.
Yeah. You've mentioned Outreach's lean startup a couple of times. Do you find business books useful? Are there any other ones that you found good, or do you generally steer clear of it? Do you tend to learn from people or whatever,
Yes, I really enjoy reading business books, and my husband has a subscription to the Harvard Business Review, and that again sort of takes businesses and sort of dissects them and what's working, what's not, and I enjoy reading that as well. I do find that often with these books, though, it could be condensed into like one paragraph, and there's kind of a central theme, and then the rest of the book sort of repeats the central theme. So I do enjoy them, but I tend to intersperse them with other books, children's books, and I love crime and thrillers, and I like literary fiction, and so I don't read them exclusively, and I tend to dip in and out of them. But I do enjoy business books. I guess I probably enjoy speaking to entrepreneurs more than reading books. So I spent time in the early days talking to people who'd run very successful businesses to get their advice, and I would probably prefer that over a book. And I had some very good advice from a local entrepreneur in Oxford.
How do you make contact with those people?
It's random, isn't it? That was through school. One was through school, but also, business book club. There was a business book club meeting in Oxford, and there's quite a big sort of publishing scene in Oxford, both occasional publishers, but also people who work in publishing who then commute to London. And I have my own book club, and I'm going to an event at Blackwell's this evening. So there's quite a lot of people interested in books and make recommendations. But in terms of the entrepreneur, it could be anyone and anything. And he said it is networking, but in a kind of not a deliberate networking way, just trying to meet interesting people, like with your podcast, talking to people and finding out a bit about them. And the advice was very much don't get investment too early. If you can avoid having a business partner, it'll make things simpler. And it was all good advice. I enjoy finding out how people have made their businesses work and seeing what lessons I can take through to my business.
What is it then that you personally find hardest about running a business? I mean, how do you overcome that?
I struggle with this question, I absolutely love what I do day to day. There is truly no other job in the world I would rather be doing. Helping kids discover great books.
Sounds good when you put it that way. Yeah.
So what do I find hard? I mean, clearly if I had more money in the bank, we'd be doing things faster. But because I have to keep an eye on costs, I have to very ruthlessly prioritize our projects. And I don't think that's a bad thing. So instead of rushing into everything and throwing cash at it, I have to kind of think, well, what is this going to do to help make it easier to find books, or something that our readers want to see on the website, or that publishers would wish that we did more of, or certainly if we had more investment, I could do those things more quickly, but I don't think I'd necessarily do them better. I think that the process of working out what's working and changing, iterating it a few times actually has produced better results. But I enjoy it so much. There's nothing that feels particularly difficult. I mean, no more than anyone else balancing home and work would find, to be honest. I feel like I've got it really good. I've got the flexibility I want. I'm doing something fun and it pays the bills. I mean,
that does help. Well, and what have you learned about yourself from the last kind of 4 years of doing this? You worked for big companies, you worked for tech companies as well as publishing companies, and now you're doing it yourself. And what has it taught you?
I really like the variety. So, when you've got your own business, you do everything from, IT support to making the tea to strategy to, office premises, everything. And I really enjoy that. I have certain processes and procedures that are set up to deal with the scale of it. I had a very sweet email this week from somebody saying, I'd just like to say, your lady Georgina and your customer services team has just been brilliant. And I just thought, oh, bless you. You think we've got a customer services team. It's me. There's only me.
It's me behind the curtain.
It's me behind the curtain, in front of the curtain, on the website, on social media. We give the appearance of being a very large business. And the only way really to deal with the volume of inquiries, both from publishers and from readers, is to have sort of very formulaic emails. And the publishers said that they like it because they know exactly where they stand. The promotion will start from this date, it'll end on that date. We'll do it on social media. I need X number of copies and I need a cover image. And, it's the same email. And it's the same really with the inquiries that we get. So I really like the organised side of that. And, when a curveball comes in, I'm a bit like, oh, I'm not sure. How does this work? What else? I guess my weakness has been I focused very much on talking to the readers, and it got to a stage this year where I really need to focus on marketing the website rather than just marketing the books. So I brought somebody new on board, a fantastic person called Liz Binks, who came from Simon Schuster, and she's really helped to boost the profile of the business and focused on marketing and PR for not just some incredible books, but also just for Toppsta, the website. And that's not something I've really spent much time on. And if I'm honest, I would rather hide behind a podcast or a website than stand up in front of people. And she's trying to convince me to do YouTube videos. Clearly we need to be more active on YouTube, but it does frighten me a little bit. And I genuinely think it's the children who are the stars of the show, but then there are lots of legal complications around children and videos, etc. So, there is a disjoint there, and but she's been brilliant, I think, at taking the business to a new level, I guess, and that definitely is not my strength. And I've just been extremely lucky with the people I found to support the business, and it takes time to build that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the thing that keeps you coming back to it every day? I mean, say in the face of having to do publicity you don't like, or deal with publishers, or
it really is. It's going to sound cheesy, but it's the feedback from the parents. The emails and the messages telling me that the book that they won in a giveaway has got their child into reading, sometimes for the first time ever, sometimes after a period of just not reading. They've seen something that's been reviewed and recommended on the website or on social media, and they've decided to purchase it, and they've just loved it, and it's got them into a series, or it's got them into an author, and that just makes my heart sing. I still well up, if something pings into my inbox and sort of says, you know what, you've changed everything for my child. And the teacher at school says they've jumped 3 levels in reading, or they're now reading for pleasure, I don't need to nag them anymore. Those messages just make it so worthwhile. And that was the purpose from day one. And I think there was a TED talk. It's called Simon Sinek, I think. And he says that often when you're running a business, you focus on the what and the how, but really it's the why. The why is what gets you out of bed. The why is what makes other people want to engage with you. And I think, publishers understand that genuinely we want to help readers find great books. And I think the readers understand that we think that their opinion is more important than any official review of a book. And, I think the why of Toppsta is quite strong. And I certainly I could wax lyrical forever about, why we do what we do and how important it is. But, it's literacy. We don't use that word, but that's why we do what we do. It's all about getting kids to read more and enjoy stories and think creatively and write creatively and share their recommendations with each other. And that's a very easy thing to wake up in the morning for.
Excellent. Well, that's a really good way to bring it all together. Thanks very much for your time, George.
Fantastic. Thank you, John.
This was Talking Through My Hat, a podcast by John Pettigrew, founder of We Are Futureproofs. Please let me know your thoughts by leaving a review at Apple Podcasts or by commenting on the website, myhat.wearefutureproofs.com. You can subscribe to this channel at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Our theme music is from hooksounds.com.